Hello and welcome back to my channel and to my January wrap-up. So I was able to read 12 things in January. I say things because a few of them were like short stories and novellas, but you know, they're still counting towards the total number of books that I read. I was able to complete all the 6 books that the Bookish Bingo gave me to read in January, and I also read 6 more things. So I had a pretty good reading month. I read some really great things, had a lot of fun with my reading as well. So I think the way I'm going to do this is that I'm going to go through the books that the bingo gave me first and which prompts they counted towards. And then at the end I'm going to go through the books that I read outside of the bingo TBR. So let's do the bingo books first. The first prompt that the bingo gave me was to read a book with a one-word title. And for this I decided to read Selfies by Jussi Adler-Olsen. This is book 7, I think, in the Department Q series. It's by a Danish author. And I've been reading this series over the course of like many years at this point. I don't even remember when I started. It's been a while. And this book in particular, it's the kind of book where, like, if I didn't mention, this is like a crime mystery series. This book in particular, it's the kind of book where, like, we as readers know what's going on. Like, we know who are doing the crimes. And then we're sort of following the investigators, trying to figure out what we already know. Which I have to admit is not my favorite. I like figuring things out alongside the investigators or like the people who are trying to solve the crime. There were some things in this that we didn't know, but yeah, I mean, just the structure of this just wasn't really my favorite. There are also like super unlikable characters in this book. I mean, we're sort of following 2 storylines, and one is sort of like following the team of investigators that we've been following over the course of many books, and those people I really like. And then we're following the people who are doing the crimes, and they are just like so unlikable. I just did not enjoy like following them, I guess. But like I said, there's sort of 2 storylines, and one of the storylines is revolving around one of the members of the team of investigators that we've been following. She is dealing with some pretty heavy like mental issues. She has some mental health problems, and the team are sort of like trying to help her out. And that part of the story I really enjoyed. I really like this team. They are a big part of the reason why I've kept reading the series. But like the other storyline, like I said, I didn't really enjoy at all. So like altogether, this just wasn't as good as I'd hoped, I guess. And at this point, I am kind of questioning, because like I said, I've been reading this series for many years. I really enjoyed the first book, and I think it was the 3rd book as well that I really, really enjoyed. And I've sort of been waiting to read a book that is going to be at the same level as those books were. And the last few books just haven't been that. I haven't really enjoyed them all that much. And I guess at this point I'm kind of questioning if I'll get back to that level, or maybe like I said, I've been reading this series for so many years that maybe my reading tastes have just changed, and I'm just not enjoying the same things anymore. Like, I don't even know, but I guess at this point I'm questioning whether or not to continue this series, because the last 3 books at least have just been okay. They've been enjoyable enough while I was reading them, but I don't really care that much, I guess. So I will need to make a decision about that, I think, because yeah, this book was just okay, enjoyable enough as I was reading it, but just doesn't really leave like a lasting impact on me in any way. And like I said, the story was just okay. So I'm not sure which rating I will give this. Maybe 2.5, 3 stars, something like that. So yeah. And the second prompt that the bingo gave me was to read a sequel. And for that prompt I decided to read A Storm of Swords Part 2 by George R.R. Martin. I started this, or I read quite a bit of it in my reading blog that I posted in January. So I'm not going to talk too much about this, and also because, you know, I don't really want to talk about the actual story in this because, you know, spoilers, it's the third book in a series. And there has been a lot going on before this book, and I'm going to give you some major spoilers if I get into the story of this. So I'm not going to do that. But yeah, things definitely happened in this one for sure. There were things that happened in here that made me sad. There were things that made me frustrated. There were things that happened that I was not unhappy about. I mean, yeah, so this book just gave me all of the emotions. And that's a good thing because it means that I actually care what's going on. And I just continue to be so impressed by this author and his ability to like tell stories, basically. And also his ability to just spend enough time on each storyline that is going on in here, because I never feel like these books are rushed in any way. There's so much going on, but the author just takes his time with each separate story, and like he needs to take that time in order for the book to be as good as it is. But I just love that he's able to just not rush in any way, and like he is so good at just. I'm never able to predict where this story is going to go. Like he continues to surprise me all the time, and I've just like given up on trying to predict anything at all. So yeah, I just continue to be so impressed by the series. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if I would give it 5 stars. It just didn't quite feel like 5 stars to me. I don't know why. I can't really explain it. So I think for now I'll probably give it like 4.5 stars. I may change my opinion about it later because this was great. I really enjoyed reading this one, but yeah, I'll probably give it like 4.5 stars for now. I had really enjoyed it. I really look forward to continuing the series. I don't own the next book yet though, so I might just I might not read it for a while just yet, but yeah, we're very excited to continue this series when I get to that. And then I got the prompt, which was to read the highest number or the prompt on the highest number on the board and also add an extra prompt. So the prompt that was on the highest number on the board was to read a standalone. And for this I decided to read Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is another book that I talked about a little bit in my reading vlog. And I did not expect what I was getting with this book. It's basically about a young girl named Claudia, and it's about her best friend Monday, and they have been super close. They're the best of friends. But one day, Monday just stops coming to school, and she continues not showing up. And Claudia, of course, gets really worried about her, and she tries to find out what may have happened to Monday, but like no one is really giving her an answer. No one wants to tell her anything, and it just feels like she gets kind of stuck, I guess. Like she is a pretty young girl too, so like it's only so much that she can do. But like the people around her, they just don't seem to care that Monday's gone the same way that Claudia does. So we can just like feel her frustration with that in this story. So this one I've seen shelved on Goodreads as both contemporary and mystery. It kind of feels like a bit of both of those. I would maybe put it in the contemporary category, but it's definitely a bit of a mystery, or a big part of this book is actually a mystery with just Claudia trying to figure out what have happened to Monday. So this book kind of shocked me actually. It definitely surprised me. I did not want to stop reading this one. It was a lot darker than I expected. This is a YA book, but like be aware before going into it that there are some pretty tough, hard-hitting topics in this one. So it might be a good idea to look up some warnings before going into it. But yeah, it was amazing. It was really good. I don't want to say much more about the story because I kind of feel like the less you know about this one before going into it, the better. But yeah, just be aware that this is pretty hard-hitting. It's not a like nice fluffy read at all. And yeah, I highly recommend if this sounds at all interesting, because it was just really well done. It was amazingly written. I listened to the audiobook, which was really good as well. I just did not want to stop reading this book basically. So yeah, this was really good. I would probably give it like 4.5 stars. This was just great. The next prompt that I got was to read a book that I acquired in 2016 or 2017. And for this, I decided to read The Law of Attraction by Jay Northcott, which I've had on my Kindle since 2017. It was actually one of the very first books that I bought to my Kindle when I got it back in 2017. So this book is a romance. It's about two guys, Ed and Alec. And the two of them meet one Friday night in like a bar, I think. So they hit it off and they hook up, and they both intended to be a one-night stand, even though they both kind of felt like it could maybe be a little bit more than that, but their intention is just to have a one-night stand and then go their separate ways, which is what they do. And then Monday comes and Ed is showing up at his new workplace where he is hired as a temp. And of course it turns out that his new boss is Alec. So yeah, this book is basically about them trying to like navigate a working relationship while also trying to figure out what might be going on between them. So this book was just really, really great. I really enjoyed my experience reading this one. For some reason it feels like forever since I read it. It's only been a few weeks. I read it at the beginning of January, so it was one of the first books that I read in January, but still it feels like forever ago. But yeah, I really enjoyed this story. There was also like some family involvement on both like Alec and Ed's side, which I really enjoy. I always enjoy that in romances. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I had a good time with it. I've read from Jay Northcott before, so I was pretty sure I was going to enjoy this one, and I did. I would probably give it like 4 stars. I think this is a standalone. I don't think there is a continuation of this one, which is actually quite refreshing because a lot of romance book has sequels, and I always feel the urge to like continue reading the sequels if I enjoyed the first one. But with this one, I can just like say I read this book, I enjoyed it, and that was that. So yeah, I had a good time with this one and gave it 4 stars. The next prompt that I got from the bingo was to read a book with a dark cover. And for this prompt I read The Guest List by Foley, which is a like mystery thriller book. So this one is about a wedding that is taking place on a remote island. So there are like people gathering together for the wedding. The wedding is between a like TV star, TV personality guy, and a woman who is like a businesswoman, pretty successful one. So it's kind of a celebrity wedding, I guess. And during the wedding, or like the weekend that they stay on this island, someone turns up dead. So yeah, that's basically like the premise of the story. I had pretty high hopes for this one because it was the Goodreads Choice Awards winner for the mystery thriller category. I think that's what it's called. I was a little disappointed, I gotta say. I didn't really enjoy this one as much as I would have liked. I'm not sure why that is. Like, there were things I liked about this. I liked the writing style. I liked the atmosphere. Like, I think the author did a really good job of just setting the stage and setting the atmosphere. There were a bunch of unlikable characters in this one. I didn't really feel like any of the characters were all that likable, which I don't really mind that much in mystery thrillers, but I guess sometimes it doesn't help either. But I guess, I mean, I was kind of bored for like 80% of the book. The author took her time with things, which, you know, I usually like in thrillers and mysteries. There was just something about the story that just never really grabbed me. It did pick up at the end as we were finally learning what was going on and who did it, basically. And also who died, because we didn't really know until the end who died either. We didn't really know anything, so yeah, the author definitely took her time, like, giving us any answers, really. The reveal was okay. It wasn't super surprising. I kind of guessed something like that may be going on. But yeah, like I said, the story just never really grabbed me. But I also don't think that it was necessarily a bad book. Like I said, writing was good, the atmosphere was good. So I think it might have been a me thing, but yeah, this was just okay for me. So I would probably give it like 3 stars. I'm not saying don't read this one, because I didn't think it was bad. Like I said, it was well written and everything, but yeah, just didn't quite work for me, I guess. And then the extra prompt that I got was to read a book with 5 or more words in the title. And the book I read for this one was Dead Mountain, The Untold True Story of the Diet Log Past Incident by Donny Eichar. And this book I talked about at length in my reading vlog. I read the entire book in that vlog, and I talked a lot about this book in particular. So I don't really want to get into it now. Maybe go watch that vlog if you're interested in what this book is about and my thoughts about it as I was reading it. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's a non-fiction book, and it's just a good example of how much I enjoy non-fiction when I pick up non-fiction books about a subject that interests me. And this is kind of like a true crime type story almost, because in this book the author is trying to figure out what happened to 9 hikers who died up in the Russian mountains back in 1959. And they died under pretty mysterious circumstances too. So he's just trying to figure out what may have happened to them. So I just really enjoyed this book. I would probably give it like 4.5 stars. Actually made me almost like a little bit emotional too, because I really felt like I could almost like relate to these hikers as the author was sort of telling their story. So yeah, really great book. If you enjoy non-fiction, if you enjoy sort of true crime type books, you may really enjoy this one. So highly recommend. And then we're getting to the 6 books or things that I read that was not part of my bingo TBR. They are all romance. Are we surprised? So if you're not interested in hearing me talk about romance books, you may stop the video here. But yeah, I decided to continue a series that I started back in December, which is the Bad Boy Security series by R. Caden. I read the first book, which was Guarding His Heart, I think, back in December. I really enjoyed it. And in January, I decided to read the 2 other books in the series, which was Stealing Pretty and Double Down. This is all the books that have been published in the series so far. I don't know if the author intends to continue it in any way. It felt like it could end here, so I felt like it would be a good time to end the series where it ended after the 3rd book. So yeah, I don't know if there will be anything more, but I've read what's been published so far. So Stealing Pretty, the 2nd book, is about, in this book, one of the main characters from the 1st book, Declan, he has now started his own security company. And he gets a job, or the company gets a job that he himself is unable to take on because he has to have to like move away for a pretty extended period of time. So instead he asks his nephew, Gray, if he can take the job. And Gray agrees to do it. So he goes on to take the job, which is to be the bodyguard of a... at this point he is a guy who is this point, it's in his mid-20s I think, but when he was younger he used to be like a huge teenage like movie and TV star. So he was super popular. And he still is, but for the last few years he hasn't really wanted to be in the spotlight, so he's sort of pulled back and he's keeping to himself, but the paparazzis are still like super interested in him, so he just needs bodyguards to sort of protect him. So Gray takes that job, and of course he ends up falling for this movie TV star named Jameson. So this is basically their love story. And like you guys know, I really enjoyed the 1st book in this series, and the 2nd book, it was okay, but it didn't quite live up to the 1st book. I felt I didn't feel the chemistry, I guess, between the characters as much as I did in the 1st book. I also didn't think the actual story was as strong as the story in the 1st book. There was also some, not grammar mistakes, but just some, it could have been better edited, I guess, the book, because there was just like words missing here and there, and sentences that didn't make sense, and there was also a couple of times where the wrong name was used and things like that. So I just felt like it could have used some more editing, and it just felt a little bit sloppy in that sense. And I didn't notice that in the 1st book, so I don't think it was there, or at least not as noticeable as in this one. That being said, I still really enjoyed this book. I had a good time reading it. It just did not have the same quality, I felt like, as the 1st book. So I would probably give this one 3.5 stars. And then we have the third book, which is Double Down. And in this book, the main character in this book is the best friend of Gray from the second book. So once again, like, there is a job that needs to be done for the security company. So the main character in this book, Raiden, he gets asked if he can take on the job, and he agrees to do that. And this book is actually a little bit different because there is the romance in this book is between 3 people and not just 2, which made for a really interesting and fun dynamic. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. So this book, in a sense, is very much linked to the first book in the series, because the side story that we got in the first book, aside from the actual romance, it sort of continues in this book, aside from the romance in this book. And this book was actually kind of almost like thriller-like. There were some things going on, and basically the three people, 3 main characters in this book, they are trying to like take down a big like corporation who are doing like bad things to like people and the environment and things like that. And that story actually started in the first book. But I guess my main complaint about this one is that it just felt a little too rushed. I just felt like it took on too many things, because this book was only just over 200 pages, and in that time we were both getting this story with like this big corporation that they were trying to take down, and we also saw a romance between 3 people developing, 3 people who hadn't met each other before and didn't have any kind of relationship before this book. So the romance, I felt like it could have used some more time, because it did feel a little bit rushed at time. I really liked the characters, and I really did like the relationship between them, but it just felt a little bit too rushed, I guess. I would have liked to have seen more time spent on them like developing their relationship. So yeah, that is sort of my main complaint about this one. I still really enjoyed it, but once again, it just couldn't really live up to the first book in the series, so I think I would probably also give this one 3.5 stars. That being said, I have really enjoyed this series altogether. I could definitely see myself reading more from this author. So yeah, I've had a good time with this series, even though the last 2 books just didn't quite live up to the first one. And the last 4 things that I read are short stories and novellas. I think I talked about in my February TBR that at the start of January there was this big giveaway going on where some romance authors were giving away some short stories and novellas for free. And I just grabbed a whole bunch of those stories, so I tried to actually read some of them as well. So I ended up being able to read 4 stories. So I'm just quickly going to go through them. The first one I read was, it's sort of continuing my theme of reading like bodyguard romances, which was completely accidental because I didn't know which stories to read out of the like 80 stories that I got from this giveaway. So I actually used like a random generator to pick out which story to read. And I actually got another bodyguard romance to read. And that romance was Falling for His Bodyguard by April Wilson, which is kind of similar to one of the Arcane books that I read. Because in this one there is a guy who is tasked to be the bodyguard of a young TV star, super popular TV star. This story was okay. It wasn't very long, but I didn't love it, I guess. The writing just felt kind of uneven, I guess. Sometimes I was like, yeah, this is pretty good, and other times I was like, okay, that was kind of weird. So I just didn't quite get into the story, I guess, and also the ending just felt a little bit strange or off, maybe. So yeah, this was just okay. I would probably give it 3 stars. The next story that I read was, yeah, on some of these titles are just, they made me smile, I guess. So the next one was The Uncut Wood by Slade James. This one is like about a group of lumberjacks who works at a camp, and this is set during the off season, and they're sort of having some friendly competition between them. And this story is like a friends to lovers romance between two of the lumberjacks. So our main character, he has been in love with his best friend for years. So during one of the competitions that they're having, he dares his friend to go on a date with him if he wins. And his friend is like, okay, I can do that. And the story kind of goes from there. It was unexpectedly sweet, actually. I really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed the writing. And this, I think, is a brand new author as well, which made me really interested to read more from him. This book is actually, or story, is actually a prequel, I guess, or maybe even the first book in a series that the author will publish. I think the first one was actually just published at the end of January. And I'm actually kind of interested to maybe read some more in that series, because I really enjoyed this first novella, I guess. So I would give this one 4 stars. So the next novella that I read was a novella. It has a super long title, so I'm just going to read. It's called A Dicked Down on New Year's Eve, or How I Lost My Virginity in a Laundry Room. And I feel like the title is sort of setting the stage for this novella. You're basically getting exactly what the title says. And this novella was just super funny. I laughed during this one. It was just great. It was super well written and just a lot of fun to read. And this one, did I say who wrote this? It's by Emma Alcott, which is also a new to me author. And this one is also, I think, a prequel to a new book that is coming later in 2021. I'm not sure if it's a series or if it's just one book. But once again, I am interested in reading that one because I really enjoyed this one. So yeah, we'll probably give this one 4 stars as well. It was just a lot of fun. I actually have a few more books or novellas on my Kindle by Emma Alcott, which I am very, very excited to read because, yeah, really, really enjoyed this one. And the final novella that I read from that giveaway was Dante by Stella. Once again, a new to me author. This is the first book in a series called Love at the Haven. And in this series, we're following a group of male escorts, basically, who are working out of a old hotel in London. And in this book, we're sort of meeting these characters. It's a group of people, and they just had a really good dynamic going on. I really like this group of guys. They they seem to have a good friendship going, and the setting in this book was just really, really good. Once again, I feel like this was just a little bit too rushed. It was a 80-page long novella. And in those 80 pages, we both learned about this group of guys. We sort of learned about the hotel that they work out of, and we're sort of setting the stage for the series. But at the same time, we're also getting a full-on romance between two people. So I liked the part of the book where we sort of set the stage for the later books in the series, and where we're sort of introduced to the characters and the setting and all those things. I think the author did a really good job with that, but the actual romance felt just a little bit too rushed, because in 80 pages there's only so much that you can do, and I just didn't quite feel the romance in that short amount of time, I guess. But yeah, once again, this is a first book in a series. Once again, I find myself kind of wanting to continue, which I realize this is giving me a problem, because out of the 4 novellas that I read this month, 3 of them are the start, prequels, or the first book in a series, and all 3 of them I kind of want to continue. So, I mean, I have given myself some problems here, because I probably won't have time to continue all of them, so not sure what I'm going to do with that. But anyway, back to this book. Like I said, I really liked some parts of it. Some other parts felt a little bit too rushed. So I would probably give this one 3.5 stars, but I'm definitely interested in continuing, because I think the other books will be full-length novels. So I can see those one probably being more to my liking, just because they're probably taking their time more with the actual romances. So that's why I'm interested in continuing this one. So, but yeah, it was pretty good. So those were the 12 things that I read in January. I feel like I've been talking forever. I hope this video doesn't get too long, but at the same time I wanted to actually like talk about the things that I read, because a lot of things that I read this month was just great. And I really enjoyed most things that I was reading, so fingers crossed that February will be another good reading month for me. So I think that's going to be it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye!